Entertainment Circle+Sweet Pets+Two Way Secret Love+Chasing Wife Crematorium+Marriage Before Love+Rich Family. Xinan has been in love with Cheng Yi for 10 years. When she graduated from college, she chose to confess to him, but was tragically rejected. From then on, one went abroad and the other ventured into the entertainment industry. 5 years later, Xinan became a hot female celebrity in the entertainment industry, while Cheng Yi became the youngest head of the Cheng family and a business genius in the media. A marriage contract reconnects two people. Rumors have it that Cheng Yi, the president of Yifeng Group, is a swift and decisive person who is aloof and noble. Despite his almost zero scandals, he has attracted countless people's attention. But as soon as the latest newspaper was published, all the socialites in Beijing went crazy. According to reports, Cheng Yi is already secretly married, and he once found a famous jewelry designer abroad and ordered a priceless diamond ring. One day, Xinan was watching TV at home when suddenly Cheng Yi called and asked her to go to the study to get a document. The document was placed on the desk and was easily found by Xinan. But at the same time, she also discovered Cheng Yi's secret and casually opened the small black box that was placed in the cabinet. Inside is a diamond ring, weighing 7 or 8 carats, and it's not an exaggeration to say it's a pigeon egg. Xinan put the diamond ring on his hand and tried it on, and the size was completely suitable. In an instant, there seemed to be something about to bloom in my heart, and a layer of imperceptible surprise and confusion floated in my eyes. 1. Bilateral Secret Love 2. 2 Places 3. Cold and fierce Beijing circle tycoons versus bright and beautiful female celebrities. Keywords of the novel. After getting married to a big shot, he flirts and spoils. No pop-ups. After marrying a big shot, he flirted and spoiled me. Download the complete TXT collection. After marrying a big shot, he indulges and spoils me. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. He comes back. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. He comes back at night. A black nanny car was driving in the darkness. The streets are bustling with cars and horses, and people of all kinds cannot see their inner desires clearly. Just after finishing a business event, assistant Meng Qiu posted the newly taken picture online and muttered, "Our Xinan is beautiful. If we shoot it casually, it will crush more than half of the female celebrities in the entertainment industry." Upon hearing this, the driver glanced at the person in the back seat through the reflector. She half closed her eyes, lazily leaning against the car window, with a large chestnut wave scattered on her shoulder. Her fair skin seemed to be shining under the light. As the event had just ended, Xinan's formal attire had not been changed yet. Despite wearing a gray plush shawl outside, it still couldn't conceal his curvaceous figure. As soon as the photo was sent out, there were hundreds of comments in less than a minute. Human beings with normal values. Every time they use their body shape to attract attention, are they tired? Half a lamb. You are only suitable as a vase. South's little cotton coat. Female celebrities are so beautiful. Meng Qiu withdrew from Weibo and secretly glanced at Xinan. She would see such comments every day, but every time she felt wronged for Xinan. Although the boss didn't do anything, she was always scolded inexplicably. Meng Qiu clicked into WeChat again and suddenly found at the high school group, which usually never sends messages, was already 99 plus. Opening the dialog box, it turned out that a former classmate in the class had married a male god who had been in a crush for many years. Meng Qiu was surprised and couldn't imagine that the obedient girl who used to wear glasses and didn't like to talk would be with the male god whom all the girls secretly loved in high school. At this moment, Xinan woke up, her long eyelashes blinking slightly. She glanced out of the car window and casually asked, "Have you arranged tomorrow's itinerary?" Meng Qiu was immersed in her own world, and after a few minutes, she realized that Xinan was talking to her. She quickly turned off her phone and replied, "I'm out." "What are you looking at, so engrossed?" Xinan actually doesn't care what Meng Qiu is looking at. She's just too bored and wants to talk to someone. Meng Qiu said, "It's nothing, it's just that my former classmate and the male god I've been secretly in love with for many years are together." Xinan curled his lips and said, "That's pretty good." Driven by gossip, Meng Qiu curiously asked, "Sister Shi, did you have anyone you liked in high school?" Meng Qiu has been following Xinan for 2 years, but she has never heard of anyone she likes. Although the news outside always tells that she is in love with someone, she knows it's all fake. The private life in Xinan is very clean, and there are few friends. Apart from work, there are hardly any hobbies or social interactions. Is that right? She answered decisively, without any concealment. Meng Qiu widened her eyes and exclaimed in surprise, "There really is. Did all the rumors online before be true?" Xinan frowned and said, "What rumors?" "Just say you were chasing a boy back in college, but he was mercilessly rejected by him." Meng Qiu stretched her neck and asked cautiously, "So is this really true?" "It's true." Meng Qiu was truly shocked now, who has such a lack of vision. He doesn't appreciate having such a beautiful girl chasing him, so how high his vision is. Who knows, maybe he just doesn't like me simply. Meng Qiu was very puzzled and thought to herself that the person must have regretted it to death now. The girl who had once refused has now become a big star. The conversation was interrupted by a ringing phone. Meng Qiu dug out Xinan's phone from her bag and handed it over. "It's the call from Agent Ding Lan." Xinan answered and waited for the other side to speak. "Xinan, director Lu Zhang's Mist is currently interviewing for a female lead. You can also come and visit, which is an opportunity for you. I have already sent director Lu Zhang's contact information and interview address to your phone, and I have helped you read the script. The character design is very good, and if you win, you will definitely attract a lot of fans." Lu Jiang is a well-known director in China who has won several Best Actors and Empresses awards. If he could go and film the scenes he directed, he might win an award. In recent years, Xinan has been filming idol dramas, and Ding Lan has always wanted her to transform, so this is a great opportunity. Xinan perfunctorily said twice. "I'll send you the script for the interview another day." "Okay." Hanging up the phone, the car had already entered the residential area where Xinan lived. Upon returning home, Xinan took off his high heels and walked barefoot into the living room. He leaned back on the sofa, staring blankly at the ceiling. The night outside the window was as silent as if it had been soaked in ink, and the large living room was even quieter, making people feel uneasy. Xinan got up and walked into the bathroom. In the moment he lay in the bathtub, it seemed like his whole body had been completely liberated. After soaking for about half an hour, Xinan wrapped himself in a towel and walked straight towards the bed. The phone placed on the bedside table jingled, and Xinan touched it. It was the latest itinerary arrangement sent by Meng Qiu. Suddenly, another text message came in from her phone, this time from her mother Zhou Rong. "I'll go home tomorrow, and Cheng Yi is back." Xinan's hand shook for a moment. Isn't he always abroad? Why did he suddenly come back? The next morning, the Shi family sent someone to pick up Xinan and sat in the car. The scenery outside the window flashed quickly through the rear-view mirror. After some time, the car began to slow down slowly and finally drove into the Shi family's villa area. Xinan paused at the door for a while, then took a long breath and walked in with slender steps. "Madam, Miss is back," shouted a servant. Upon hearing the sound, Zhou Rong did not look up, but continued to speak enthusiastically to the person beside him. Xinan waved his hand and asked the servant to step back, slowly walking towards the living room. The person was leaning on the sofa, sitting casually, but even so, it couldn't conceal the luxury on his body. After 3 years of not seeing each other, he has become more stable and charming than before, and also more outstanding. At the age of less than 28, he became the head of the Qing family, and the outside media said he was young, promising, and a business genius. "Mom," Xinan shouted. Zhou Rong glanced at her and gestured for her to sit down. It's been 3 or 4 years since you and Xinan last met. Today, you two need to have a good chat and reminisce about the past." His gaze never fell on Xinan's body, he just smiled slowly and said, "Okay, Aunt Zhou." Zhou Rong nodded in satisfaction and continued chatting with Cheng Yi for a few moments. "I remember when I was a child, Xinan couldn't play with anyone and just liked to follow behind your butt all day," he said. "Well, she was really clingy when she was a child," he said in a very flat voice. "I don't know if your parents have told you, but our two families discussed that if we had a son and a daughter, we would marry as in-laws and arrange for a baby marriage." "Mom!" Xinan interrupted Zhou Rong, "I just heard someone calling you from the kitchen." Zhou Rong patted his hand and said, "You see, I've forgotten. Before you came, I cooked a pot of chicken soup in the kitchen. You can drink a few more bowls later." As she spoke, she stood up and walked towards the kitchen. For a moment, only Xinan and Cheng Yi were left in the living room. "Don't listen to my mom's nonsense, those are all old stories that don't count for a long time. Xinan is too clear about her mother's plan. Over the years, the Shi family has gradually declined, and if she can climb this big tree of the Cheng family, she may be able to bring the Shi family back to life." Cheng Yi finally looked up at Xinan. It must be said that after 4 years of not seeing her, this woman had become even more charming than before. Her peach blossom eyes drooped slightly, with a sense of disgust towards the world, charming and not vulgar. Newcomers, new writers, and precious children should provide more support. End of this chapter. Chapter 2, Treated as Gratitude. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2, Treated as Gratitude. Cheng Yi looked at her for a while before slowly speaking up, "Is that how you want to distance yourself from me?" He paused for a moment and then added, "Or are you playing hard to get?" "Cheng Yi, what do you mean by this?" Her tone of voice seemed slightly pale. Cheng Yi snorted coldly, took out a cigarette from the cigarette box, and then lit it. The white smoke slowly rose from his fingertips. "What do I mean? I have just returned to my home, and your parents have put in a lot of effort to invite me to your home. On the surface, it seems to be a nostalgia, but I believe you know the real purpose better than me." The man spoke in a low and pleasant voice, but his words were so hurtful. Cheng Yi is right. The purpose of the Shi family is not simple, and she has nothing to say about it. In their aristocratic circle, marriage cannot be chosen by themselves, and they basically end up on the path of alliance, because only in this way can families obtain the maximum benefits. And if Tianyi Group wants to overcome the current difficulties as soon as possible, marriage is the best choice, especially choosing a big family like the Cheng family with 100 years of history. Due to the arrival of Cheng Yi, Shi Konglei, who had not returned home for half a month, actually made a special trip home. In the past few months, he has been exhausted for the company's sake, and now he must firmly grasp the life-saving straw of the Cheng family. At the dinner table, Shi Konglei deliberately brought the topic to Xinan, taking advantage of his drunkenness. You've been staying abroad for these years and you may not even know. Nan has developed into the entertainment industry, and this child has loved performing since childhood. I didn't expect that after graduating from university, he has really developed in this area. I heard that you recently invested in an entertainment company, and the two of you can have a good conversation in private. Cheng Yi looked up at Xinan with a cold and distant tone. "Okay, just contact me if you have anything." Xinan couldn't tell that this was just his polite words, the two of them didn't even have contact information. This meal in Xinan was particularly absent-minded. If possible, she really wanted to escape. The atmosphere was really suffocating. "Uncle Shi and Aunt Zhou, I have eaten well. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first." Cheng Yi actually put down his chopsticks long ago, but couldn't find a suitable time to speak. "You finished eating so quickly. Do you want to sit for a while longer? Zhou Rong wanted to keep him for a while. No need. Zhou Rong gave Xinan a look and said, "All right, Xinan, go and see off quickly." Upon hearing Zhou Rong calling himself, Xinan finally regained his composure and said, "Okay." Cheng Yi walked very fast, while Xinan was wearing high heels and struggling to keep up. Suddenly, the figure in front suddenly stopped, and before Xinan could react quickly, his head hit the man's back with a loud thud. "I'm sorry," Xinan rubbed his forehead and lifted it up in pain. "Don't you look at the road when you walk." Cheng Yi turned around with an angry expression on his face. "I didn't mean to." Cheng Yi stopped talking nonsense to her and walked outside with one hand in his pocket. Xinan looked at his back and suddenly felt empty, as if someone had dug up a piece. Once upon a time, they were also very good friends. Cheng Yi was 3 years older than her and took great care of this little sister who always followed behind him. It can be said that he was always obedient to her. At that time, he always liked to pinch her face and call her "little pumpkin," because he had such a big brother by his side, and Xinan could be said to be in charge of the school. But as they grew older, their relationship became increasingly strained, especially after experiencing that incident, and their relationship became even more strained. The thought of this made Sinan's heart ache uncontrollably. After returning, Zhou Rong and Xikonglei were indeed sitting on the sofa waiting for her. Xinan gritted his teeth and walked over. Xikonglei looked at his daughter who had been raised for more than 20 years and said earnestly, South, I believe you also know the current situation of our family. Tianyi Group has been my lifelong effort, and I cannot just watch it go bankrupt like this. If you can marry the Cheng family, they will definitely not sit idly by. Tianyi will be saved then." Although she had known their thoughts for a long time, when she heard these words, she couldn't help feeling sad in her heart. "Are you willing to sacrifice your daughter's happiness?" Her voice trembled as she spoke. "You grew up with Ai from a young age, and I'm sure he wouldn't treat you unfairly." Xikonglei paused for a few seconds before saying, "Don't you like to be an actor? Ai has several management companies under his name. If you can be with him, your career will definitely soar in the future." Seeing that Xinan had been silent for a while, Zhou Rong couldn't sit still and said, "We have raised you for so many years, providing you with the best education, providing you with the best food and clothing. You should consider it as a reward for me and your father. You definitely don't want your father's company, which has been running for so many years, to collapse, do you?" Since childhood, Zhou Rong has been very indifferent to her, and after having her younger brother Xisun, she no longer cares about Xinan. I thought when Zhou Rong said these words, she wouldn't feel sad, but now why is her heart so painful? Okay. Xinan almost choked up and said this word. Mom is right, she won't watch her father's company, which he has been working hard for so many years, collapse like this. In the bar, strong drum beats, noisy crowds, and the mixed air filled with the smell of tobacco and alcohol, the music was played to its fullest, and under the stimulation of alcohol, handsome men and beautiful women frantically shook their bodies in the center of the dance floor. Cheng Yi no longer knows how many gatherings he has returned to attend, but almost all the attendees today are from Fa Xiao who grew up with him. A group of people gathered together, drinking and playing cards. It was very lively. Most of them are prominent figures in Beijing, with a young and beautiful girl sitting next to each of them. These girls are all very clever because they work in such an environment all year round, and they know too well how to please a man. In such an environment, everyone talked about a variety of topics, and as they spoke, they brought the topic up to Cheng Yi. "Ai, it's been a few days since you came back. Does she know about Xinan?" The speaker's name was Tan Bo, and he was the one who had the best time playing with Cheng Yi. Only he dared to mention Xinan in front of Cheng Yi. Cheng Yi sits in the middle of this group of people. He has rarely spoken since then, but even so, he is an undeniable presence. The woman around her is also quite discerning, very well behaved, and not as clingy as other women. Someone nearby joked, Tan Bo, your message is not very clear, is it? Rennie will go to the Shi family for dinner the next day after he comes back. When Cheng Yi heard this sentence, his expression was very plain. He raised his head slightly and poured himself another glass of whiskey. Tan Bo was slightly stunned for a while before sitting next to Cheng Yi and asking in a voice that only two people could hear, I heard that the Shi family is willing to marry your family. What do you think about this? Now Cheng Yi has already made the decision for the Cheng family, but whether they can get married or not depends entirely on his words. The third chapter of Baozi may not be coherent as it will take 2 days to see because the driving car is blocked. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Obtaining Certificates. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Obtaining Certificates. Cheng Yi's face still maintained a faint expression, as if this matter had nothing to do with him. He suddenly stood up, his tone very faint, take your time playing, I'll leave first. The female companion sitting next to him had not yet figured out the situation and was about to follow up, but was held down by Tan Bo. She stared at the figure who had already walked away, feeling very unwilling. After all, she didn't always have such a good opportunity to approach Cheng Yi. You should know that there is only one young master in the Cheng family. If she could hold on to Cheng Yi's thigh, she would have peace of mind for the next life. However, she did not seize this opportunity well, and Cheng Yi didn't even touch her hand the whole night. Cheng Yi walked out of the bar all the way, took out the car key, and sat straight in the driver's seat. The car drove rapidly on the streets of Beijing, but he didn't close the window and let the piercing cold wind blow on him. I don't know how long it took, but when Cheng Yi slowed down, he realized that he had already driven the car to Jiangwan City. Cheng Yi parked his car at the entrance of the villa and didn't rush to get off. Instead, he lit a cigarette in the car and slowly smoked. Ding dong. Ding dong, is the doorbell ringing. Xinan has just taken a shower and her hair hasn't even dried yet. Who came to find her so late? Xinan pulled open the door and saw Cheng Yi's handsome face. Before she could speak, Cheng Yi stepped in and gently pushed the door with one hand behind her. With a bang, the door was tightly closed. You come. Just halfway through Xinan's words, his lips were blocked by Cheng Yi. His kiss came with a fierce force, catching people off guard like a storm. He bit her lips hard, and Xinan felt a bit uncomfortable as he tried to push him away, but he grabbed his hands and quickly pried open her teeth with lightning speed. His breathing was heavy, with a strong smoky smell in his kiss, mixed with a faint tobacco aroma. Is he drunk now? Xinan was kissed by him, making her whole body numb and her head dizzy. She struggled and could only let him do whatever he wanted. Suddenly, the top was slightly torn open. Xinan was startled and raised his hand to his chest, vigorously pushing against him. He let go of Xinan's lips and looked down at her. In his deep eyes, there seemed to be a sea-like emotion rolling. Stay with me one night, I'll marry you. Xinan's brain seemed to have been struck by lightning, and she looked at the man in front of her with an incredulous look. What are you saying? Cheng Yi's sexy lips closed and parted, but her words were so revealing. Didn't you want me to marry you? Now I'm giving you this opportunity. As long as you sleep with me, tomorrow I can bring Tianyi Group back to life. He said this not to exaggerate, but because he really has the ability. The words of Zhou Rong and Shi Konglei suddenly echoed in her ears. It took Xinan a while to find her voice, and she let out a long sigh and said, okay. As soon as she finished speaking, she closed her eyes and let the pure coverage of the man in front of her come, until there was a hint of coolness on her body, and Xinan suddenly avoided his lips. Go to the room. Her eyes were a bit hazy, and her voice was a bit hoarse. Cheng Yi picked her up with one hand and groped towards the bedroom. The next morning, Xinan was awakened by Ding Lan's phone call, and there was no man's figure next to him, not even Yuan. It should have been some time since we left. The phone was still screaming frantically, and she reached out to touch it from the bedside. As soon as she answered, Ding Lan's loud voice came from the receiver. What happened to you last night? I called you several times but you didn't answer. Xinan took a deep breath. She seemed to have heard the sound of the phone last night, but it rang once or twice before being pressed down by Cheng Yi. She cleared her throat and said, I slept too soundly last night and didn't hear the phone ringing. Is there anything wrong? I just wanted to remind you that the magazine shoot for this afternoon has been cancelled and rescheduled to next Monday. Okay. By the way, have you read the script for Mist. I've seen it. As soon as I received the script, Xinan read it. The story is indeed good, and the character design is also very pleasing. The content roughly tells the love story of a police officer and a mysterious female assassin, but mainly focuses on suspense and supplemented by love. The script is very good, and at first glance, it is aimed at winning prizes. What do you think? To be honest, Xinan said, not bad. Ding Lan smiled and said, that's not it. As soon as I saw the script, I knew you would definitely like it. The audition was scheduled for this Friday, and you should stay at home these days to study and ponder the script. Got it. Hanging up the phone, Xinan touched his forehead, feeling extremely sore as if he had been run over by a big truck. She slowly sat up, her whole body covered in a sticky mess. Cheng Yi had asked for it several times last night, but by the time it was over, both of them were exhausted and collapsed in bed, feeling dizzy before falling asleep. She looked at the bright red on the bedsheet and couldn't help but feel restless. Despite being very tired, Xinan still dragged his heavy steps to the bathroom and took a shower. The next day, the doorbell at home rang. Opening the door, she saw a man she had never seen before. He was around 30 years old, dressed very well, with a smile on his face, and looked very gentle. Hello, my name is Yi Rui and I am Mr. Cheng's assistant. He asked me to come and pick you up. Pick me up. Did he say what he wanted to do? Apply for a marriage certificate, Yi Rui replied decisively. Marriage certificate. Xinan was slightly surprised in his heart. Yes. Let's go, Miss Shi. Yi Rui made a gesture of invitation on his side, but my household registration is still in the Shi family. Xinan really didn't expect Cheng Yi's efficiency to be so high. Yi Rui smiled slightly and said, Miss Shi, don't worry. Cheng Yi's car is a Rolls-Royce Phantom. When Xinan got on the car, he was sitting in the back seat of the driver's seat, looking at his phone. After what happened that night, Xinan now feels uncomfortable all over when he sees Cheng Yi. Xinan deliberately kept a distance of 1 foot from him. Cheng Yi glanced at Xinan and his eyebrows and eyes became slightly cold. Do I have any thorns on my body? Ah. Xinan didn't understand what he meant. Sit down. The commanding tone. Oh. Xinan moved his butt and approached Cheng Yi a bit. When she came out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Xinan was completely dazed. She actually got married, and she was still with Cheng Yi. Looking at the red notebook in his hand, Xinan couldn't describe what it tasted like for a moment. Is it more joyful or more helpless? In fact, Xinan has always had a secret. She likes Cheng Yi and has been in love for many years, from the age of 16 to 26, for a whole 10 years. She has always been the only one in her heart. In high school, Xinan was moved by the young man who was by her side. At that time, Cheng Yi was rampant and arrogant. He was truly the proud son of heaven, and everyone surrounded him. There were countless girls in the school who secretly loved and liked him, including Xinan. Xinan is not as bold as other girls, writing love letters to him and giving him love cakes, but she will silently monitor his every move, give him a bottle of water when he plays basketball, and cheer him on when he participates in sports games. Even so, Cheng Yi still doesn't like her. She thought their relationship would continue like this, even if they couldn't be lovers, at least they could be friends. But it wasn't until college that their relationship completely broke down due to that incident. When he was about to graduate from his senior year, Xinan called on Cheng Yi's good friends to hold a birthday party for him, and also wanted to take this opportunity to express his feelings for so many years. Xinan prepared for this birthday party alone for a long time. She carefully selected even the birthday gift for Cheng Yi for over a month. Cheng Yi's birthday is on the Qixi festival, a romantic and special festival. Tan Bo said that Cheng Yi's favorite color is blue, so that day, Xinan specially wore a blue floral dress and even curled up her jet black straight hair. Brother Tan Bo, has Brother Yi come yet? Although she had prepared for a long time, she couldn't help feeling nervous when it came to this day. Tan Bo stood at the door of the private room and glanced outside. Don't worry, I'll call you when he comes later. Okay. Tan Bo also almost watched Xinan grow up, so he doted on her particularly. Coming. Tan Bo finished speaking and reached out to turn off the narrator's light. The entire private room instantly plunged into pitch black, and everyone held their breath. At this moment, Xinan seemed to hear his own heartbeat. 1, 2, 3, bang 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 bang. Vote more, my dear children. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Take what you need. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Take what you need. At the moment Cheng Yi appeared, Tan Bo was the first to bear the brunt and opened the salute gun in his hand. All the people shouted, "Happy birthday," which directly pushed the atmosphere to a climax. Xinan pushed the cake cart step by step towards Cheng Yi, and then said word by word, "Happy birthday, Brother Yi." She is a bit shy and timid, but she doesn't want to wait anymore. Xinan looked up at Cheng Yi's eyes, her voice clear and clean, without appearing sticky at all. "Brother Yi, I like you. Can you be with me?" Her gaze was very firm, and Xinan knew clearly that she would never be as brave as she is now again. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire private room exploded with a loud bang, and everyone was cheering and shouting, "Together, together." But the young man was not moved, nor did he agree to her confession under the pressure of everyone. "Sorry, I don't like you." Although it's only a few short words, every word is heart-wrenching. Cheng Yi walked away without looking back, even before stepping into the private room. Xinan stood still for a long time and couldn't recover. In the end, Tan Bo took her home. Since then, there has been no further contact between Xinan and Cheng Yi, and a few months later, Cheng Yi went abroad. And this farewell lasted for 5 years. "Starting from today, you'll move in with me," Cheng Yi's voice said with a commanding tone, making it hard to say anything. Upon hearing this, Xinan frowned and said, "That she family. I always keep my word." Xinan knows Cheng Yi's personality very well, and as long as he promises something, he will definitely do it. Cheng Yi lives in a looming academy in the northern suburbs, which is one of the top luxury residences in Beijing and surrounded by first-class educational resources. This house was a gift from Cheng Yi's parents for his 18th birthday. Although he has many properties under his name now, most of them live here, and the estimated housing prices here have already exceeded 100 million yuan. The car slowly stopped at the entrance of the villa. Xinan looked up at the luxurious villa and paused for a moment. This was not her first time here. She used to live here for a few days during high school. At that time, Cheng Yi had just finished the college entrance examination, and she, Tan Bo, and a few good friends often came here to play with Cheng Yi. "Sometimes I play late, so why not stay here?" At that time, their relationship was so good that she even vividly remembered the young man lying on the sofa, legs crossed, watching TV, listening to music, holding a game console in one hand, leisurely and comfortable. "What are you still doing outside?" Cheng Yi urged impatiently, inserting his hand into his pocket. Oh, Xinan followed him slowly into the villa. The villa is also decorated very luxurious, with light colors as the base, gray as the middle, and brown as the embellishment. The marble and stone lines on the ground are concise and low-key luxury, paired with a gray-white carpet to appear elegant and stylish, which matches the owner's temperament and personality very well. Xinan looked at the villa, just like the first model in the early days, even the position of the vase was unchanged. I have already asked Yi Rui to move your belongings to the master bedroom. Starting today, you will be responsible for all my clothing, food, housing, and transportation. His tone was official, as if discussing cooperation. Your phone must be turned on for 20 hours, and you are not allowed to get too close to other men. If I let you know which male celebrity you are rumored to have an affair with, I will bear the consequences. Xinan felt that he was not getting married, but rather selling himself. But just thinking about it, isn't their marriage just a transaction? Just take what you need from each. Cheng Yi stepped on the stairs as if suddenly remembering something, then turned to Xinan and said, "By the way, I don't like to make my private life public." "I understand," Xinan replied, "isn't it a hidden marriage? It's also quite good, and it saves a lot of unnecessary trouble." In the following days, Xinan did not see Cheng Yi again, and she did not receive any news about him. Recently, Ding Lan pushed all her business activities in order for her to carefully study the script, so she spends almost every day in the villa. Because Cheng Yi doesn't like strangers walking around at home. Although he is wealthy, he always only hires hourly workers and doesn't have a nanny at home. So now there is only one person in Xinan for this huge villa. She was thinking about whether to make a phone call to care about Cheng Yi when the phone rang. South, I'm Dad. Xinan's eyebrows and eyes flickered and he said, "What's up?" "There's nothing important, I just wanted to call and ask how you get along with Ai." "He's treating you quite well, isn't he?" Xikanlei asked. Xinan's voice paused and said, "He treats me quite well." "That's good, I can rest assured that you are happy." Xinan was about to hang up the phone, but hesitated for a moment before asking, "Dad, Jianni is now?" "Jianni now has the support of the Cheng family, and the situation is much better. It shouldn't be long before the situation can stabilize. Xikanlei has put in too much effort for Jianni over the years, and now seeing it slowly improving, he is very happy in his heart." "That's good." Cheng Yi did indeed, pulling a company on the brink of bankruptcy back from the cliff. "You have time to thank Ai well for me." "I will." "How should I thank him?" Cheng Yi doesn't lack anything, giving things feels too monotonous. After much thought, Xinan finally decided to cook a dinner for Cheng Yi. Today is the third meeting held by Cheng Yi, and the company's elders have been arguing for 2 hours over a port project. He lazily listened and lowered his head to look at his phone. Suddenly, a WeChat message came from Xinan. "Xinan. Are you coming back tonight?" Cheng Yi stared at the information on his phone for a while, then replied with a greeting. "Xinan. I made sweet and sour pork tenderloin, steamed clam eggs, and spicy chicken offal. Are you coming back?" Cheng Yi silently curled his lips and typed back, "I finish work at 8 o'clock. The people in the meeting room looked at each other, no one knew whose message their boss was replying to, but they showed such an expression. It should be noted that Cheng Yi has always been cold and strict in the company. Xinan looked at the sumptuous dinner on the table with satisfaction, glanced at the time, and in a few minutes, Cheng Yi was about to leave work. Cheng Yi's stomach is notorious for being tricky. When he was in school, he was quite particular about what he ate, and he didn't know if this dish would suit his taste. Xinan went to the kitchen to get a bottle of red wine, which was recommended by the salesperson. She is not very familiar with red wine either. Suddenly, the sound of unlocking came from the door. Isn't it a few minutes before he finishes work? Why did he come back so early? Cheng Yi took off his coat, changed into a pair of slippers, and walked straight to the living room. When he saw the delicious food on the dining table, he raised his eyebrows and was surprised. Did you make all of this? Xinan nodded lightly and let out a Wash your hands quickly and prepare to eat. Xinan brought the last hot dish to the table. At the dinner table, seeing Cheng Yi pick up chopsticks and slowly pick up a dish to put to his mouth, Xinan couldn't help but ask, is it delicious? Looking at Xinan's sparkling starry eyes, Cheng Yi was stunned for a moment before calmly answering, not bad. Getting his words was already a high praise, and Xinan finally felt relieved. She was originally afraid that he wouldn't like them. Xinan was very happy in his heart and even took the initiative to help Cheng Yi ride a bowl of chicken soup. Thank you. Halfway through the meal, Xinan suddenly murmured softly. Cheng Yi paused as he bit into the chicken soup and said, you don't have to thank me. We're just taking what we need from each other. You should know that I'm a businessman and don't do business at a loss. As soon as this sentence was spoken, the atmosphere instantly solidified. Oh. Afterwards, Xinan silently ate without speaking again. After finishing the meal, Cheng Yi slowly put down his chopsticks and whispered, wash the bowl after finishing. I made such a big and delicious table for you, but you didn't even say thank you and asked me to wash the dishes. It's really a white-eyed wolf, murmured Xinan's novel. What are you saying? Cheng Yi narrowed his eyes and his voice became a bit cold. I said I knew. Xinan quickly changed his mouth. Cheng Yi nodded and turned to walk upstairs. When Xinan finished tidying up the kitchen and went upstairs, Cheng Yi had already fallen asleep. After receiving the certificate for so many days, this is the first time she and Cheng Yi have slept together in the same bed. Staring at his beautiful sleeping face for a while, Xinan turned around and took a hot bath in the bathroom. He stayed in the kitchen for an afternoon, covered in the smell of oil fumes. After taking a shower, Xinan carefully touched the bed, afraid of waking up the people around him. Just as she was about to fall asleep, a pair of strong and warm hands suddenly wrapped around her, enveloping her whole being in her arms. Cheng Yiming flipped over and enveloped her under him, her eyes shining with a scorching light. His movements were no longer as rude as before, and later on, Xinan even took the initiative to hook his neck. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Audition. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Audition. The next morning, Xinan woke up in Cheng Yi's arms. Xinan broke free from the hand resting on her lower abdomen, then sat up and was about to get out of bed when someone grabbed her wrist. Why is his sleep so shallow? Where are you going? Perhaps because he had just woken up, his voice was a bit lazy when he spoke. I'm going to audition for a play today. Cheng Yi opened his eyes and said, when? Around 10 o'clock. Where is it? Xinan found the audition address given to her by Ding Lan yesterday and handed her phone to Cheng Yi. Cheng Yi glanced and released Shinan's hand, then got up and got out of bed. I'll take you there, he said. He added, by the way, as he buttoned up his shirt in order to go to Jingxi South. Cheng Yi originally didn't want to have breakfast, but she bought 5 or 6 servings of breakfast and insisted on forcing her to finish all the rest. So in the end, Xinan not only had breakfast, but also had a very full meal. Cheng Yi really didn't lie to her, he was really on his way because the audition was near his company. After watching Xinan walk away, Cheng Yi didn't rush to drive away. He put down the window glass, took out a cigarette, lit it, and took a strong puff. After smoking a cigarette, he finally took out his phone and found a number to play over. The phone was quickly dialed, and Cheng Yi's fingers tapped one after another, seemingly very patient. After less than 2 rings of the bell, the other person answered the phone and said, Yishao. Upon hearing the sound, Cheng Yi immediately raised the phone and said directly, I heard you are currently interviewing for the female lead in a new movie. The other person was stunned for 2 seconds, then smiled and replied, why, is there a good candidate recommended for Yishao? Well, the person you audition for today has an actress named Xinan, and I think she's pretty good. After all the words have been said, how could a shrewd person like Lu Jiang not understand? But the female protagonist and her team had already made an appointment, and now the interview is just a formality. Can you make him disobey Cheng Yi? Even if you give him 10 courage, he wouldn't dare. Almost all the movies he made before were invested by Cheng Yi, and if he can win awards, Cheng Yi has half the credit. If he offends Cheng Yi, then he won't want to get involved in the film industry. Cheng Yi has never cared about these things, and now he has a sudden desire to promote female celebrities. But the investor of this movie had already booked the female lead, and that female lead was also his ideal choice. Lu Jiang hesitated for a while before saying, "Yishao, look at this. I have another movie next year, why not?" Cheng Yi extinguished his cigarette butt and squinted his eyes, saying, "Lu Jiang, I notice that you can't see the situation clearly now." Upon hearing these words, Lu Jiang immediately became anxious and had no choice but to confess, "Xiao, I'll be honest with you. In fact, the investor in this drama is Han Jibai, who has already pre-arranged Ran Shasha as the female lead." Han Jibai. That's really a narrow path for enemies. Cheng Yi's eyes parted for a moment, and his voice became stern as he said, "Change the lead actress, I'll be fully invested. If there's anything I can do for you, I'll take care of it." Cheng Yi has already said so. He is determined to praise that female celebrity, and Lu Jiang can't say anything more. Who says he has money? Because director Lu Jiang pursues natural beauty, Xinan only wore a light makeup. In addition to some newcomers who have just entered the entertainment industry, there are also many actors who have already starred in several films who came for the interview today. It seems that the competition will be very fierce today. Ding Lan went to fetch a glass of water, and when she returned, she saw Xinan sitting on the sofa with a script on her lap. "Xinan, don't be nervous when you go in later," she said, Actually, Xinan is not very nervous. Whether successful or not, she just needs to do her best. Suddenly, a commotion came from not far away, and Xinan and Ding Lan looked at it at the same time. Compared to their composure, Meng Qiu was much more excited. She tightly grasped Xinan's arm and was very excited, saying, "Xinan, it seems like Ran Shasha. She even came for the interview." Meng Qiu was so excited, and Xinan understood very well. After all, Ran Shasha is a well-known movie queen. Her first step in making her debut was sweeping major domestic awards. At that time, all the entertainment news headlines were under her name, and her overnight fame was nothing more than that. Although Xinan was also surprised in her heart, she quickly regained her composure. "Didn't she go to Hollywood to develop? How did you come back?" "That season, Brother Bai also came back." Meng Qiu. "She seems to be looking at our side. She's coming over." Ranshasha walked over with sexy steps, her every move and gesture showcasing a myriad of charm that was irresistible. "South, long time no see." Xinan didn't expect Ran Shasha to greet her in public. She paused and then smiled, saying, "Long time no see, Sister Shasha." Ran Shasha is 3 years older than her and grew up with her in the same courtyard. At this moment, Ding Lan and Meng Qiu were both stunned, especially Ding Lan. She had been the manager of Xinan for so many years, and they didn't even know that she knew Ranshasha. Ranshasha gave a very warm smile, even the curve of her mouth curved perfectly. "I've heard before that you've also developed into the entertainment industry, but I didn't expect it to be true. I remember you told me since middle school that you wanted to be an actor, and now that your dream has finally come true, I'm quite happy for you." Xinan smiled heartily and said, "Thank you." Xinan can no longer remember saying this to Ranshasha, but being an actress has always been her dream, which is indeed true. "I remember in high school, when I heard Ran Shasha filming a movie, she was envious. For a period of time, she even regarded her as her idol and even threatened in front of Cheng Yi that she would become as popular as her in the future. I thought I would get some ridicule from Cheng Yi, but at that time, with his sharp tongue, he didn't say a word for the first time, just stared at the distance in a daze. Next month, Ji Bai and I are getting engaged. Ran Sha bent down and sat on the body of Xinan, speaking without hesitation to Ding Lan and Meng Qiu next to her. When he heard this news, a hint of surprise flashed in Sinan's eyes, but more importantly, he felt happy for them. After all, Ran Sha and Han Jibai have been together since college. They are talented and beautiful, and they are a well-known golden boy and jade girl in the circle. Really? Then I congratulate you and brother Ji Bai in advance. Xinan felt happy for them from the bottom of his heart, and brother Ji Bai finally achieved success with sister Sasha. Updated. Treasures, vote more. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Miss of the Shi Family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Miss of the Shi Family. If Cheng Yi amazed her youth, then Han Jibai was the one who softened her years. He and Cheng Yi are completely different people. He won't pull her braids and scold her for being stupid like Cheng Yi does every day, nor will he argue with her like Tan Bo. He will only gently touch her head and comfort her with a gentle voice when she is sad and upset. His appearance was like a beam of light. Whenever she was feeling down and couldn't find her direction, just thinking of his gentle voice would make her feel at ease and warm. 3 years ago, Ran Sha went to Hollywood to develop her career, and Han Jibai often flew from home and abroad. Therefore, in recent years, Xinan and Han Jibai have only met a few times. Ranshasa flicked her hair and smiled, "Remember to come then." Xinan said, "Don't worry, Sister Sasha. I will not only come, but also give you and brother Ji Bai a big red envelope." "Okay, I'm waiting for you to give me a big red envelope." As soon as the words fell, a girl with a very delicate appearance suddenly ran over and whispered a few words in Ranshasa's ear. Ranshasa nodded and then turned to her side and said, South, I'll go first. We'll talk again when we have time." "Okay." After seeing Ranshasa walk away, Meng Qiu finally spoke up and said, "Sister Xinan, you actually know Ranshasa." Just now when I heard the conversation between Xinan and Ranshasa, her pupils widened. The popular actress is actually getting married, and she is still with Han Jibai. You should know that the Han family is the most influential family among the wealthy families in Beijing besides the Qing family. This news is really explosive. Xinan really felt Meng Qiu's excitement because she had been holding onto her arm all the way, and the force felt like it was almost crushing her. "Meng Qiu, please let go of me first, don't get excited. She really hurts." After Meng Qishong opened his hand, Xinan rubbed his already flushed arm. This girl has such great strength. When Xinan lifted his head, he happened to meet Ding Lan and looked at her meaningful gaze. Xinan's heart thumped for a moment, and Ding Lan should have guessed. She had never told anyone about Xinan's identity, nor even mentioned it to Ding Lan. In addition, the Shi family deliberately helped her erase her identity, so almost no one knew that she was the miss of the Shi family. And now, after Ran Shasha's manipulation, coupled with the fact that there is only one family among the major families in Beijing, so with just a little thought, one can guess everything. Xinan coughed with a guilty conscience and said, "Lan Jia, I didn't mean to hide it from you." She really didn't mean to want Man Ding Lan, mainly because the identity of Miss Shi from the Shi family is too eye-catching, and she doesn't rely on this identity to establish a foothold in the entertainment industry. Ding Lan seemed very helpless and said, "Xinan, how many secrets do you have that I don't know?" From the first day of signing the contract with Xinan, Ding Lan knew that her identity was not simple, because she didn't look like a child born from an ordinary family in terms of words, behavior, or dress. She still remembers the scene when she first met Xinan at the entrance of the film academy. At that time, Xinan was wearing a beige half-sleeved skirt, with a large area of snowy skin exposed at the collar and hem. Anyone passing by couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. At that time, Ding Lan only glanced at her and knew that this girl must have a promising future because she was so superior in both appearance and temperament, so she immediately handed over her business card. Unfortunately, Xinan made his debut through an online drama. Although it sparked a lot of sparks online at the time, its popularity quickly declined. In addition, the subsequent resources did not keep up, so after nearly 5 years of debut, Xinan is still in a lukewarm state. But unfortunately, Xinan also has a non-competitive personality, which is also a headache for Ding Lan. Xinan squeezed out a smile and stopped talking. She couldn't imagine what kind of reaction Ding Lan would have had if she found out she was married to Cheng Yi. Compared to her marriage, perhaps Ding Lan was more surprised by her marriage partner. Should I tell Ding Lan? After all, she is her own agent. Suddenly, Cheng Yi's indifferent face appeared in Sinan's mind, and he immediately dispelled the idea. After all, he said he didn't want too many people to know about their marriage news, so the less people know, the better. After seeing Ran Xia come out of the interview room, Meng Qiu was a bit worried about Xinan. Xinan, I feel like you're under a lot of competitive pressure now. That's the 3 Golden Actress. It seems that this play is really good, otherwise why would even Ran Xia come for an interview? Xinan and Ran Xia nodded and greeted each other. Hearing Meng Qiu's mournful tone, Xinan's heart also became uncertain. Does she really have the ability to win this role? After about 10 more minutes, it was finally Xinan's turn to enter for the interview. Sister Xinan, come on. Meng Qiu gestured to her to cheer. Xinan smiled at her. The entire interview process was not as tense as she had imagined, and even smoother than she had anticipated. From the interviewer's gaze, Xinan did not receive any useful information, and she did not know whether she was good or bad. Actually, from the moment she saw Ran Xia come for the interview, she had great hopes for this audition because if she were a director, she would definitely choose such a capable and experienced actress. Moreover, in the entertainment industry, it's not just about having good looks and acting skills that you can get a role. The water in this circle is too deep. If you don't have the capital behind you or your popularity is very high, then it's even harder for you to make a name for yourself than to reach the sky. Xinan had never encountered such an opportunity before, but every time she went for an interview, she was rejected, so her heart had long been indifferent like water. Because I didn't expect anything, Xinan has been very relaxed these days waiting for the results. 3 days later, Ran Xia went to Han Jibai's company. Although the relationship between Ran Xia and Han Jibai is not a secret in the company, her arrival still caused a considerable sensation. After all, she is the 3 Golden Actress. When Ran Xia walked into the office, people kept greeting her, and she responded with a smile, instantly gaining a lot of goodwill. When she reached the innermost CEO's office, her secretary had already opened the door for her before she could reach out. She whispered thank you and walked in with high heels. Jibai. Seeing Ran Xia, Han Jibai showed a warm smile, ignoring the outside gaze, and directly helped her to his chair to sit down. Upon seeing this, the secretary silently closed the office door, isolating the outside view. Sasha, why are you here? Han Jibai put down the planning plan in his hand and looked at Ran Xia with a gentle expression. I heard that the female lead in Mist has been replaced. Her tone was not at all accusatory, as if telling a very ordinary story. Update. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. He's back. You're happy, right? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. He's back. You're happy, right? Han Jibai smiled and said, I was just about to call and tell you about this. Yesterday, Lu Jiang called and said that Cheng Yi wanted Nan to be the lead actress in Mist. Ran Xia was slightly taken aback and said, Cheng Yi didn't even mention it in advance. When Lu Jiang said he wanted to make a new movie, he talked to her about some ideas. After listening to it, she became very interested in the setting of the movie and asked Han Ji-bai to invest after returning. She had originally planned to return to the domestic market with this movie, so South knows Cheng Yi. Han Ji-bai seemed to have anticipated that Ran Sha would ask. Before she could finish speaking, he spoke up. Cheng Yi is a notorious person who wants face to suffer. I think South probably doesn't know. Ran Sha pursed a faint smile and said, judging from this posture, Cheng Yi is trying to maintain the rhythm of the South. Han Ji-bai suddenly walked behind Ran Sha, wrapped his hands around her, hugged her in his arms, and smiled. What's wrong? Are you still afraid that someone might shake your position as the queen of the film? Ran Sha symbolically slapped Han Ji-bai on the chest and said, damn it. Han Ji-bai touched his chest and laughed. Okay, I was wrong. Ran Sha pursed her lips and let out a snort. By the way, the Cheng and Shi families have formed an alliance, Han Ji-bai suddenly said. Upon hearing this news, Ran Sha was not too surprised, as she had known since middle school that the Shi family had always planned to marry Xinan into the Cheng family. At that time, the Shi family put a lot of effort into cultivating the relationship between Xinan and Cheng Yi, and even transferred Xinan to the school where Cheng Yi was located. Ran Sha let out a long sigh and said, I hope the two of them can be okay. When Xinan received the news that he had passed his audition, he was shooting a magazine cover. Xinan is reading Weibo, surrounded by two very fashionable girls, one putting on makeup for her and the other doing her hair. Today's makeup is very suitable for Xinan, with a light complexion and a clear and creamy apricot makeup. It is completely different from the previous style, and even Ding Lan was amazed by today's Xinan. It's really beautiful. I thought I recognized the wrong person just now, Ding Lan joked as she walked towards the south of the creek. There's no such exaggeration. The results of the audition are out. Although Xinan was already prepared to accept failure, he couldn't help but start looking forward to it in his heart. What's the result? Seeing Ding Lan's face darken, Xinan's heart suddenly tightened, and he couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. Unexpectedly, Ding Lan's expression suddenly changed and she smiled. Congratulations to Xinan for successfully winning the lead role in Mist. Really? Xinan said happily. I really can't be any more serious. Director Lu Jiang personally called this morning to inform you that after signing the contract, you will join the group in 3 days. 3 days later. So fast. The filming location of Mist is not in Beijing, but in a small town in the south. I don't know if Cheng Yi will agree, but Xinan is worried. When he returned to Looming Academy in the evening, Cheng Yi had already arrived home and was sitting on the sofa watching TV. Xinan stood outside the living room for a few seconds before slowly walking in. I saw Cheng Yi lazily sitting on the sofa, his long legs casually crossed and resting on the coffee table, his face turned to one side, and he looked very lazy. Xinan walked in and realized that he was not watching TV, but rather resting with his eyes closed. He seemed to hear the footsteps of Xinan, but he didn't really open his eyes. Come and help me press my head, he said. Xinan placed the bag in his hand on the coffee table and walked over to Cheng Yi, gently massaging his temples with both hands. He seems really tired. It seems that he has been going out early and returning late lately. Sometimes she sleeps until late at night and feels like someone is lying down next to her. Is the company very busy? The huge living room only had the sound of television playing, and Xinan was very close to Cheng Yi, and his steady breathing could be clearly heard. After a long time, Xinan slowly spoke up and said, I passed the audition. Cheng Yi let out a his jet black hair half closed his eyes, and he could vaguely see the faint black shadow in his eyes. I will be joining the group in 3 days and may not be at home for a long time. This drama will take about 3 months to shoot, and without any surprises, she should be staying on the set for the rest of the time. He still only responded lightly. Xinan continued, Brother Ji Bai has returned. Cheng Yi finally had some movement. He opened his eyes and his face darkened slightly. "You're glad he's back, aren't you?" Xinan didn't quite understand what Cheng Yi meant by this sentence. Ji Bai grew up with them and he came back. Shouldn't they be happy? I am indeed quite happy. Cheng Yi suddenly sat up, grabbed her wrist, pulled hard, and then flipped over, pressing her under him. Without waiting for any action from Xinan, the man's hand began to swim on her, and she was suddenly startled and began to resist with force. But her little strength was like tickling in front of Cheng Yi, and had no effect at all. His kiss went down from his neck all the way to his collarbone, and finally took a fierce bite there, leaving a row of bright red tooth marks. Xinan bit her lips tightly, her body trembling due to his rude behavior, until in the end, her reaction gradually became numb. Seeing her reaction like this, Cheng Yi's eyes flashed with a hint of self-deprecation. Is it because he is not Han Jibai that she resists like this? Cheng Yi snorted coldly. Xinan tightly grasped a corner of the sofa, as if this could reduce a bit of pain. This time it hurts more than ever before, the body hurts, and the heart hurts even more. She doesn't know why Cheng Yi suddenly turned into this. Does he really hate himself like this? I don't know how long it took, but the man finally stopped. Cheng Yi stood on the side for a long time, his gaze slowly falling on Xinan, who was curled up in the corner of the sofa. He saw traces of blue and purple all over her body. She lay on the sofa like that, her whole body trembling slightly. Although it was already painful like that, there was no sound coming out just now. A strong sense of powerlessness appeared in Cheng Yi's heart. When he saw the tears left in the corner of Xinan's eyes, his heart suddenly tightened and he instinctively wanted to wipe them off. But as soon as his hand reached out, Xinan's body trembled even more violently. He clenched his palm and finally reached back, staring at Xinan for a while before slowly retracting his gaze. He picked up his suit jacket and walked out of the villa door without looking back. This chapter is a bit rough. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Cooking late night snacks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Cooking late night snacks. After hearing the sound of the door closing at the door, Xinan dared to cry out, feeling aggrieved, puzzled, and exhausted. In an instant, various emotions burst out at this moment. I don't know how long I cried, but the tears on my face have dried up. It was only then that Xinan slowly sat up straight. The clothes had been torn apart and could no longer be worn. Despite knowing that there was no one at home now, Xinan still wore them on his body without covering anything. My whole body seemed to have been run over by a car, and as soon as my legs stood on the ground, they couldn't help but tremble. However, Xinan gritted his teeth and walked step by step towards the direction of the stairs. Because her body was really uncomfortable, Xinan just took a simple shower. Just now, Cheng Yi was extremely rude to her, but when she saw the blue and purple marks on her body, she still took a deep breath. Xinan laughed out of self-deprecation. She and Cheng Yi were originally contracted marriages. Does she really fantasize about Cheng Yi falling in love with her? 3 days later, Xinan officially joined the production team to film. Since that day, she has not seen Cheng Yi again, so she sent him a text message before leaving, but as expected, she did not receive any reply. The male lead who partners with Xinan is the newly crowned actor of this year. Due to his handsome appearance and outstanding acting skills, he has captured a large number of fans and has been gaining momentum recently. Being able to achieve such success in just over 30 is simply immeasurable. Xinan and he had a relatively easy time playing. I thought actors like them would be difficult to get along with, but I didn't expect him to have no airs and be very friendly. He often took the initiative to talk to Xinan and helped her a lot in the early stages. Seeing that it has been almost a month since the device was turned on, Xinan still hasn't received any phone calls or even text messages from Cheng Yi. Looking at the chat records on her phone, Xinan smiled faintly, but her eyes were filled with bitterness. What she was hoping for was that she and Cheng Yi should not have been together in the first place, it was just that the family had tied them together. No, to be precise, it's just her wishful thinking. When Meng Qiu returned from taking out the food, he saw Xinan sitting on a chair with a script on his lap and a phone in his hands, but his eyes were a bit confused. Sister Xinan. Meng Qiu reached out and waved in front of Xinan. Sister Xinan, what are you thinking? You didn't respond even after calling you a few times. Meng Qiu took out the takeout from the bag. It's nothing, Xinan replied lightly. By the way, I have already booked a flight back to Beijing tomorrow. Okay. Tomorrow is the day when Ji Bai and Ran Shasha get engaged. She needs to go back, and Cheng Yi should also go. At the thought of this, Xinan couldn't help but feel heartbroken. Since that night, she and Cheng Yi have never seen each other again, and she doesn't even know what kind of mood to face him with now. Because the company recently discussed an overseas business, Cheng Yi has been in the UK for the past few days. He has been in the UK for 3 years and is too familiar with the things here. Because he is too familiar, he is not interested in anything. A few British friends have invited him out to play several times, but every time he becomes uninterested and leaves shortly after sitting down. It rained for several consecutive days in the UK, and after talking about work, he slept in a hotel. When he woke up feeling bored, he turned to old movies to watch. This was the first time he felt empty, and for some reason, he suddenly missed Xinan, missing her voice, her breath, and her smile. He suddenly wanted to see her, but the thought of her cold gaze that night instantly chilled his heart. Cheng Yi lowered his eyes and smiled bitterly. That night, he smoked one cigarette after another. Afterwards, Cheng Yi had no intention of staying in the UK, so he handled his affairs in advance and flew back to China the next day. The plane landed, and Yi Rui followed Cheng Yi all the way out of the airport. Mr. Yi, are you going back to the office or home now? Go back to the company. Upon arriving at the company, Cheng Yi held another meeting that lasted until 9 p.m. He had not even taken a sip of water since disembarking from the plane. After the meeting ended, Cheng Yi looked at the documents for a while, and by this time the company's people had already left. Cheng Yi took a cigarette, lit it, and then walked to the window. The traffic was bustling downstairs, and the lights were dim. He took a strong puff and held it in his mouth for a long time before slowly spitting it out. After standing for a while, Cheng Yi picked up the car key and left the company. He didn't know where he was going, he just drove aimlessly on the street, and finally the car slowly came to a stop. It was only then that he realized he had driven to the looming academy. Cheng Yi was taken aback and laughed at himself. After parking the car and opening the door, the villa was pitch black and she didn't come back. Turning on the light, the glaring light shone on him and he couldn't keep his eyes open. After a while, he slowly recovered. Cheng Yi took off his suit jacket and casually hung it in front of the hanger at the door, then walked step by step into the living room. After a long flight and an afternoon meeting, he had not eaten a bite yet. Lying on the sofa, he suddenly felt very tired and didn't want to move at all. Suddenly, there was a sound of footsteps in his ear, and Cheng Yi immediately opened his eyes, which happened to be opposite Xinan's 4 eyes standing at the staircase. Cheng Yi's eyes were initially filled with astonishment, but gradually calmed down. Yes, Han Jibai was engaged, how could she not go? Xinan stood in the same place for a long time. She was originally planning to come down and cook a late-night snack, but unexpectedly ran into Cheng Yi like this. She said, "I'm a bit hungry, come down and cook some late-night snacks." Xinan walked into the kitchen and first brought himself a cup of warm water, then started boiling water to cook noodles. But when the seasoning started, Xinan seemed to think of something and shouted to the living room, "Do you want to eat?" I thought I would get a cold answer from Cheng Yi, but I heard him say, "Mm." Although the voice was very low, Xinan still heard it. There weren't many noodles left at home, so Xinan simply boiled them all. In no time, 2 steaming bowls of egg noodles were ready. Cheng Yi ate very quickly and soon finished elegantly wiping his mouth. When Xinan was serving noodles, he specially served Cheng Yi more. Unexpectedly, he finished all of them. Did he come back tonight without eating? After finishing the late-night snack, of course, Xinan still washed the dishes. After the big shot had eaten and drank enough, he went upstairs without looking back. After going upstairs, Cheng Yi did not rush to the bathroom to take a shower, but went to the neighboring study. This room is usually locked, and no one can come in except for him. He walked step by step to the desk, opened the drawer, and then casually placed a black box in it. And there are also many other gift boxes, big and small, inside. Cheng Yi stared at the box for a while, then slowly closed the drawer. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Booking a Wedding Banquet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Booking a Wedding Banquet. The engagement banquet between Han Jibai and Ran Shasha was held in the lobby of a hotel, scheduled for November 38, noon. Considering Ran Shasha's identity, the Han family did not invite the media to come today. Xinan came with Cheng Yi, perhaps because the man around her was too dazzling. As soon as she arrived at the entrance of the hall, she felt countless pairs of eyes staring at her. After all, Xinan is a person who lives under the spotlight all year round. She quickly adapted to these gazes and walked slowly inside, holding on to Cheng Yi's arm. No matter who greeted her, she smiled and nodded in response, because today she represents not only the miss of the Shi family but also Cheng Yi's wife. At this time, many people had already gathered in the hall, and a lively atmosphere was everywhere, most of whom were aristocrats from prestigious families in Beijing. There is a long table in the center of the hall, on which many exquisite foods and drinks are placed. Han Jibai and Ran Shasha are chatting with the people around them. Han Jibai was dressed in a black suit, with her hair carefully groomed, exuding a mature and steady temperament, while Ran Shasha was dressed in a red fishtail dress, with a low cut and shaved shoulders, accentuating her snow-white complexion. Han Jibai smiled and said a few words to the person next to him, then walked over with Ran Shasha. Ah, Nan, it's been a long time since we last met. Han Jibai's eyebrows and eyes remained smiling as he spoke, his hair seeming to be so gentle to anyone. Xinan took out a small box from his handbag and handed it to Ran Sasha, saying, "Sasha, Jibai, have a happy engagement. This is an engagement gift for you." On the spot, Ranisa opened the small box, which contained 2 couple necklaces. "Thank you South, I really like it," she said. Compared to Xinan, Cheng Yi didn't give any gifts. Instead, he took a glass of wine from a passing waiter and raised it slightly to Han Jibai, saying, "Happy engagement." Ran Shasha smiled brightly and said, "Cheng Yi, I heard from Jibai that you have recently acquired several entertainment companies. Don't forget me if you have any good resources." When Ran Shasha said these words, her eyes glanced at Xinan. She clearly had something to say. How could Cheng Yi, such a smart person, not know? Cheng Yi curled his lips and said calmly, "You are already the 3 Golden Shadow Queen. Do you still need me to give you resources? Whether I lack resources or not is one thing, but whether Yi Shao gives resources or not is another thing." She deliberately emphasized the word "shao" a bit. Cheng Yi said word by word, "I'll give it to you. Do you dare to take it?" Ran Shasha looked straight into Cheng Yi's gaze, still smiling. "Dare, why not?" Xinan didn't know the deeper meaning behind their conversation, but felt that their gunpowder was getting stronger and stronger. He quickly gave Han Jibai a wink. When they were in school, Cheng Yi and Ran Shasha were not very easy to deal with. Walking together before was like a scene of World War II. Han Jibai received the look from Xinan and chuckled softly before speaking, "Sasha, the guests are almost here. Let's go up and have a few words." Without waiting for Ran Shasha to speak, he pulled her away. Watching the protagonist and his companions walk into the middle of the hall, all the guests gather around. Han Ji-bai led Ran Sha to the center of the stage, took the microphone handed over by the waiter, and spoke fluently. First of all, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend our engagement banquet. Sasha and I met, got to know each other, fell in love, and are now about to enter the hall of marriage. Thank you very much for witnessing this beautiful moment with us. Now, I announce that the engagement banquet has officially begun. The audience applauded one after another, as if to express their blessings to this new couple with this enthusiastic applause. In front of everyone, Han Ji-bai and Ran Sha exchanged rings and then kissed each other. After the ceremony, the next step was the cake-cutting section. Just now, Cheng Yi was surrounded by people discussing work matters, and Xinan couldn't understand their conversation. He sat down on a sofa alone. After sitting for a while with boredom, Xinan asked the waiter for a glass of fruit wine with a low alcohol content. In such a place, the least we can do is gossip. You see the young lady from the Shi family sitting on the sofa over there, Xinan. So it's her. I heard that the Cheng family seems to have married the Shi family. What kind of marriage alliance? It's just wishful thinking from the Shi family. The Cheng family doesn't recognize her at all. She's just a vase beside Cheng Yi. Otherwise, you think they've been together for so long. Why didn't Cheng Yi give her a wedding? Xinan clenched the bag in her hand. She thought her mind was strong enough, but when she heard these words, her heart felt like someone had stabbed her, causing a faint pain. Yes, if she is really so important in Cheng Yi's heart, why doesn't he even give her a wedding? A hint of bitterness appeared in Sinan's eyes. Marriage is such a sacred thing, usually done with the person he loves. Cheng Yi doesn't like her, so how could he give her a wedding? She is just Cheng Yi's bedmate. South. Xinan sorted out his emotions, squeezed out a smile, and sweetly shouted, Brother Ji-bai. Han Ji-bai sat on the sofa of the narrator in Xinan and placed the cake in his hand on the table. I saw that you didn't go to get the cake, so I left you a portion, the matcha flavor you like. Xinan's heart warmed up. She didn't expect that after so many years, Han Ji-bai could still remember what flavor of cake she liked. Thank you, she said, I feel like your complexion is not very good. Are you feeling unwell or is there something on your mind? Han Ji-bai can always see through her thoughts at a glance. Xinan shook his head and casually made an excuse, no, maybe I ate something unclean this morning, and now my stomach hurts a bit. Han Ji-bai was still a bit worried. Do you want to go upstairs and take a nap? There was a dedicated lounge upstairs. It's good to sleep in a deserted place, at least you don't have to hear these annoying words. Okay. Han Ji-bai originally wanted to send Xinan, but she refused. After all, he is the protagonist here today and there are still many things waiting for him to do. Xinan lay on the bed of the hotel and quickly fell asleep. It was a heavy and long sleep because by the time she woke up, the sky had gradually darkened. Xinan vaguely took out his phone from his bag and glanced at the time. It was already 5:30 p.m., and by this time, the engagement banquet should have already ended. But when she saw the caller ID below the time point, she was completely stunned. Cheng Yi actually called her 13 times. I don't know when she pressed the mute button on her phone before, so she didn't hear any sound. Is there anything urgent about Cheng Yi calling her so many times? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Misunderstandings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Misunderstandings. Xinan immediately called back. Where are you? Cheng Yi's magnetic and pleasant voice came, but her tone was very cold. Xinan shuddered, even his voice trembling a bit as he spoke. I was still at the hotel. I felt a bit uncomfortable in the morning and went upstairs to sleep. Why don't you answer my phone? Look at how many calls I've made to you. His tone was irritable and fierce. Xinan was startled by Cheng Yi's voice and his body shrank. I'm sorry, he said after a pause over there, he said in an unquestionable tone, "Don't run around, I'll come over now." Oh. Xinan really didn't run around, just sat on the sofa in the hotel room waiting for Cheng Yi. In no time, someone came knocking on the door. Xinan tidied up his clothes and then walked over to open the door. "Brother Ji-bai." It wasn't Cheng Yi who came. Han Ji-bai smiled and said, "The guests have almost left. I didn't see you in the lobby. I thought you might still be resting, so I came over to take a look. I didn't disturb your rest, did I?" "No, I woke up long ago." Turning south of the stream, Han Ji-bai came in. "That's good, by the way, this thing should be yours, right?" Han Ji-bai took out a tassel earring from his pocket. "The waiter gave it to me, and it looks a bit like the earring you're wearing today. Because the guests who came today are all big shots, any small accessory on their bodies may be worth $1 million. The waiter found it while tidying up the hall and didn't dare to leave it randomly, so he handed it over to Han Ji-bai. Xinan touched his ear and indeed lost one earring. "Thank you," he said, "let me help you put it on." Han Ji-bai walked to the side of Xinan. As soon as he reached out his hand and didn't even touch Sinan's ear, he was interrupted by a voice. "What are you doing?" That voice sounded like the cold ice in winter. Upon hearing Cheng Yi's voice, Xinan's heartbeat almost stopped. He quickly took a step back and looked at the door with a panicked expression. With a trembling voice, he spoke, "Cheng Yi." Cheng Yi came faster than she had imagined. Cheng Yi stood at the door, dressed in a dark suit, white shirt, without a tie, with a slightly loosened collar and his clothes ironed straight. He was elegant and looked like a nobleman. "Did I disturb your good deed?" Xinan knew that he and Han Ji-bai had nothing to do, but his heart couldn't stop panicking and instinctively wanted to explain. But Cheng Yi didn't give him a chance to explain at all, and only heard his cold voice come again, "Xinan, I really underestimated you. I didn't expect you to even have a married man. I really admire you." His words were like a knife, piercing deep into the heart of Xinan. Han Ji-bai frowned and said, "Cheng Yi, don't speak too much. Xinan and I are not you." Cheng Yi let out a cold, hee-hee sound, and then the door of the room was slammed shut by him fiercely, as if it was about to shatter. Cheng Yi left without giving them a chance to explain. Han Ji-bai looked at Xinan quietly for a while, wanting to offer comfort, but Xinan spoke up first and said, "Brother Ji-bai, I'm fine. You should go back first, otherwise Sister Sasha should come to you later. I'll take you back." "No need. I don't know why, but Xinan is very resistant to contact with Han Ji-bai now." Han Ji-bai sighed and said, "All right, Nan, don't worry. I will find an opportunity to explain it clearly to Ai." Xinan had a bitter smile on his face and didn't speak. Her relationship with Cheng Yi was not very stable, and now that something like this has happened again, he probably doesn't want to give himself a good face. Cheng Yi walked out of the hotel door with a dark face throughout the journey. He drove along the streets of Beijing at a fast speed, without closing the window. He let the piercing cold wind blow on his face, as if it could calm him a bit. But the effect was not significant, and the anger in my heart even grew stronger. He didn't go back to Looming Academy, but drove to a famous club in Beijing. When he saw Cheng Yi, the manager hurriedly walked to the door to greet him, with a face full of flattery. Cheng Yi ordered a lot of alcohol and drank alone for a while without speaking. The manager's mind lit up and he walked up to Cheng Yi's ear, saying, "Yi Xiao, drinking too much alone is boring. Do you want me to find a talking sister to accompany you?" Cheng Yi took another sip of the muffled wine, squinted his eyes, and replied, "Okay." The manager clapped his hands, and soon a girl with heavy makeup walked in. The manager ordered, "This is Yi Xiao." "Yi Xiao is good," the girl shouted. Cheng Yi raised his eyebrows and patted the sofa next to him, asking the girl to sit over. The manager saw the situation and wisely retreated, not forgetting to close the door before leaving. "Yi Xiao, I have a toast to you. I don't know if it's because of nervousness, but the girl's hand holding the glass trembled slightly. Cheng Yi said lightly, "Are you afraid of me?" Watching her stuttering, Cheng Yi looked at her and saw that she was constantly pulling at the skirt with one hand. That skirt is very short, it may run out with just a slight movement. Upon seeing this, Cheng Yi spoke up and asked, "Are you new here?" The girl was slightly surprised and replied, "My first day at work today." "Still in school?" His voice was somewhat casual. Going to college." Cheng Yi suddenly took a cigarette and as soon as it was in his mouth, the girl handed him a lighter. He smiled, lowered his head slightly, lit the cigarette, and then took a comfortable puff of smoke. Cheng Yi casually asked, "Which university do you attend?" The girl retrieved the lighter and answered truthfully, "Beijing Film Academy." Cheng Yi's hand holding the cigarette trembled slightly and said, "Is that so? Go ahead and take off your makeup." The girl didn't understand why Cheng Yi suddenly asked her to take off her makeup. Although she had some doubts, she still followed his instructions and went to the bathroom to wash her face clean. When he returned to the private room, Cheng Yi was crossing his legs and smoking, which was already his second cigarette. Lin Wei felt her heart suddenly jump a bit faster. This man is even so pleasing to the eye when smoking. Lin Wei sat carefully back next to Cheng Yi and saw that his glass was already empty, so she helped him fill it up again. "What's your name?" "Lin Wei." The man nodded and then started drinking again. Lin Wei sat next to him and helped him pour the wine. "Is he in a bad mood?" Of course, Lin Wei dare not ask such a question. The manager has already pointed it out to her. In their profession, they should learn to speak less and do more, and not ask questions that should not be asked. I don't know how long it took, but the man was completely drunk and fell asleep on the sofa. Lin Wei originally wanted to go out and call the manager, but when she got up, she suddenly heard the man whispering a few times because the voice was too low for her to hear exactly what was being said. So she got a little closer and finally heard what the man was saying. South. Is it the name of the person he likes? I love dog blood loves me. End of this chapter.